Erik Boland, Yankees beat writer for Newsday, joining us right now. Erik, great to have you. Happy spring training to you. How are the Yanks looking at camp, and how would you draw up the lineup?
I cannot hear anything.
No. He can't hear you, Scott. So
take my job.
Continue to talk. Well, this is the best time when you're at your best.
He doesn't need to hear me. I need you guys to run the interview.
Scott wants to know, what's your favorite restaurant in Tampa? Where do you go at night, and what do you eat for breakfast? No, he asked, how's camp going? How are the Yankees? What's the big story here in camp?
I mean, really, it's been kind of a quiet camp.
Really?
I knock on wood when
Stroman
I say that.
And all that stuff
I was
going
to say, with the exception of
elbows,
the Marcus Stroman situation, and of course Giancarlo Stanton now being out of camp indefinitely, going back to New York for personal reasons. But trust me, I've covered, this is my 17th year covering the Yankees, so on the scale of camp controversy or really distracting types of things, this would be at the bottom of the list. And the thing with Stroman, and maybe we'll get into it a little bit more, but I know what his reputation has been in other stops, but he is a beloved teammate in there. He has no issues whatsoever in the clubhouse, which is, as you guys know, is all that matters. It doesn't matter what media narratives are, et cetera. As long as you're good in the clubhouse, and Stroman is more than good in that clubhouse, and I can only speak to him in the Yankees clubhouse, there's really no issues there. And, the reality is, when he said, I'm a starter, and that created a whole bunch of, headlines a couple of weeks ago after he missed the first 2 days of pitchers and catchers, he actually did speak the truth. He is a starter, and that's what he's been his entire 10 years in the big league, and you could say pretty highly successful 10 years.
Do you feel like there's been any more backlash from that, or was it like something that in the moment it was like, oh, it's a big story, it's all this, and then he came out and he said his piece and nobody could really argue with anything that he said? It was more of just like, well, I think he should do this, or I think he should do that.
I think people maybe were expecting him to say, hey, whatever role they want me in, I'm good with. I mean, that's the cliche that you guys usually.
the Red Sox are going through the same thing right now.
Well, no,
right?
Talk about a dramatic difference in terms of how guys answer questions. But Marcus spoke the truth of what he has been his entire career. As you guys know, being through a ton of spring trainings yourselves, what the roster looks like on February 14th or February 15th, and what it looks like when camp breaks, in this case on March 25th or 26th, something like that. The Yankees have 5 starters ahead of Marcus Stroman right now. That is the absolute truth.
Who are the 5?
You got
Cole,
Fried, Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil.
Oh,
so if all those guys have decent, healthy camps, most important healthy camps, then the Yankees will have to make a decision with Stroman. But I can tell you, last year nobody expected Garrett Cole to leave camp in mid-March with what turned out to be an inflamed elbow, and he didn't end up making his debut until mid to late June. The year before that, both Carlos Rodon and Nestor Cortes started the season on the IL. A couple of years before that, Luis Severino, threw a bullpen, and then before he was going to throw in his first game, suddenly got sent to check something out in his arm, and he had Tommy John surgery. So, and you guys, I'm sure, have a myriad of stories from camps that you guys were in over the years where, one pitcher after another goes down. So, if, not that anybody is rooting for that to happen, but you just don't know what's going to happen from the start of the spring until the end. And so Marcus Stroman is getting built up as a starter, as are, a whole bunch of other guys, because you need 10 to 12 starters typically to get through a regular season. So when Stroman says I'm a starter, he is, and I expect him, if he's not traded, and the Yankees have tried to trade him.
Okay. My question is let's say all 5 guys are healthy.
Yes.
Then what? Because everyone, that's like the stock answer, right? Like, oh, something will happen. It'll work itself out. Let's say it doesn't. Let's say Schmidt, Gil, Rodon, Fried, and Cole are all healthy and they all have a great spring.
I'll give you an answer.
Then what?
I'll give you an answer, AJ.
Because that's going to be what's intriguing to me.
It's
everyone can say, oh, it works itself out. And yada,
100%.
But if it doesn't, nothing happens, then what?
But what you're giving me, and this is what players over the years answer the questions this way, and management, managers, owners say, that's a hypothetical. It's a fascinating question, and nobody really knows exactly how it's going to play out. If all of those guys come through the spring healthy, then it's going to be a very interesting discussion that they have with Stroman. But here's another element to the if this happens and that happens. Starters in other organizations are going to get hurt at some point, and then suddenly Marcus Stroman, even with the $18 million that he's owed this year, suddenly, let's say 3 starters from a contending team, name one, go down, and all of a sudden Brian Cashman's getting some calls saying, "Is Marcus still available?"
That's a hypothetical.
That's a hypothetical. Oh, so Erik's writing the story, and we're supposed to listen to it.
Right.
I get it. Who's going to be their – we talk about additions all the time. Who's going to be their biggest loss from last year's team? Because they lost some guys. And I'll give you some time to think about it.
Soto?
I mean –
because – yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. And one of the narratives around the Yankees, and I've certainly written this too, is that there is the potential that they are better top to bottom in their lineup this year than they were last season with Soto. However, talking to – opposing pitchers that faced that duo last year, opposing managers that faced that duo last year. I had a bench coach in the American League from another team talking to him right after Soto signed with the Mets. And he asked me, he goes, "How's the organization taking it?" And I said, well, in all honesty, there's some degree of relief just because now they can address a whole lot of other holes on their roster. And they were not going to be able to do that financially had Soto taken the $760 million that the Yankees had offered. And he said, "I get it. I understand that. Agree with some of it." He goes, "Let me just give you the perspective from the opposing dugout. There was nothing in the game like those two back-to-back. And you were literally terrorized in the opposing dugout, wondering, when are those two, insert expletives there, coming up again? Because it seemed like they were up every friggin' inning." He didn't say friggin'. And he said, "I guarantee you, if that's what we were thinking in the dugout, that's in the pitcher's mind too. You know, how much of this game is mental? You guys, talk about that all the time. You plant something in a pitcher's head, whether it's a reliever, the starter, how many times is a starter going to face those two guys back to back?" And so the Yankees lineup, it may be, we don't know. There's a lot of questions involved with it. How much does Goldschmidt have left? Bellinger, 4 of his last 5 years haven't been up to certainly his standards. But nothing's happened yet. And again, you can't duplicate the Soto-Judge dynamic. We have no idea how that's going to play out. So I think pitchers are certainly relieved, opposing team pitchers. But, until the offense proves otherwise, their biggest loss, you still have to say it's Juan Soto.
Currently today, we know Stanton's in New York with elbows, personal issues, all that stuff. Also currently today, a former MVP candidate, Platinum Glover, made a 3.5-hour drive from Jupiter to play in a game against a team that may or may not have openings. I know you're missing a bat. I know the Yankees are missing a bat in G, and you don't know how that's going to play out. It just seems like too much of a coincidence that he made the trip here to not showcase himself to a team that might need a third baseman and a bat short right now.
I mean, look, Nolan has been linked to the Yankees since the winter meetings. As you guys know, he's got a full no-trade clause, but everything I've heard from the Cardinals organization is that he would be willing to waive that to come to a contending team like the Yankees. Nolan is a 10-time Gold Glove winner, 8-time All-Star. I think he would welcome the spotlight that would come, particularly at the end of his career. He's never won a championship. People I've talked to with the Cardinals say that's, first and foremost on his list. He really would like a title before he retires. It's really right now it's finances. The Yankees, if they're able to trade Marcus Stroman, that would free up $18 million. Then suddenly, Nolan's salary, what he's owed, would maybe fit in, a little bit more so, because the spending for now, kind of Hal Steinbrenner, the owner, has turned that spigot off. But circumstances change, as we were talking about with the Stroman situation. I will say I talked to Nolan on the field after batting practice here today, and I asked him, I said, "When's the last time you've made a 3.5-hour drive cross state?" And he said, "Well, it's been a while." But he said, I don't like to take consecutive days off in the spring. He didn't play in Dunedin yesterday. And so,
So that's
it just
what it
happened
was.
to be though a team that he would get.
I'm
Huh?
just
Well,
telling you what
we're
Nolan
talking
said to me.
hypotheticals here. What happens if he goes out and punches out twice? He's out. He's out. What if he goes deep twice? Yankee fans are going to be clamoring.
Of course, absolutely. Makes a couple of diving
right.
stops.
They're going to be.
He's already written half the article.
Oh yeah.
I was in the middle of writing it actually when Mark texted me to come down here. So yeah, you got.
Which one did you write though? Did you write 2 articles?
Oh no, just one.
Just one. That he has a great day and the Yankees need him.
And if he doesn't have a good day, it's just spring training.
Oh wow! So that's super
weird
easy.
how that works.
That's how the sausage gets made, sometimes, guys.
Is that weird? Looking in the background, you're kind of a historian a little bit. Yes? No?
It depends on
Okay.
a lot of U.S. history, but I don't think that's what you're going to ask me.
Baseball
Yeah,
and the beard.
decent. Oh, the
and
beard, yes.
the song. 2 things that have come up in camp here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to change the Yankee fan base in the sense of like more younger fans now are going to watch? Do you think it's going to, do you think both moves were necessary?
The New York one, I'm not sure the origin of that one, and I really didn't care that much when that story broke, honestly.
See, that to me is the bigger deal.
That I didn't care that much?
Well, yes, we knew that. No, what I'm saying is so when you won as a visitor, the lady would sing. I don't know.
Yeah, Liza Minnelli. Right.
She would sing.
Right.
And when you lost, Sinatra would sing.
No. It was the reverse. When they won, Sinatra. When they lost, Liza Minnelli's version.
The Yankees. I'm talking about as a visitor.
Oh, okay.
So we always wanted
wanted
the lady to sing.
lady
So
to
we'd
sing,
be like,
right,
let's
yes.
make the lady sing. Because
when you come into Yankee Stadium.
when you come to Yankee
Yeah,
Stadium,
I got
the lady.
you, yes.
I didn't know it was Liza Minnelli. So it was always like, let's make the lady sing.
Right.
Because we don't want to hear it. Because if Sinatra's singing, that means they won. So to me, that's a big deal. The facial hair, I never played for the Yankees, so I didn't really care about that. Now, certain players do care about that, but I think it's great. They're finally letting people be themselves a little bit.
Judge said something interesting the other day when he was asked about the change in the beard policy, and he was one of the current players that Hal Steinbrenner consulted with before ultimately announcing this decision last weekend. And one of the things Aaron said when he was asked about, because Hal in his reasoning said, I would really be upset if I found out a free agent didn't come here because of the beard policy. And Judge said, if that's the deciding factor for a player, whether or not they come to the New York Yankees or not, he's probably a guy that we wouldn't want, in this clubhouse. I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but that was the gist of what he said. It really, to the players, is not as big a deal as you might think. And if you look in that clubhouse, you don't see a bunch of beards. The guys who didn't have beards before don't have them now. Maybe you get a few extra days of growth, so you don't have the guys that shave every day. One of the guys that people thought would grow a beard the quickest, besides Devin Williams, who, we know that's just, he has always worn a beard since he's been an adult, and that's just, what he does. But people thought Austin Wells for sure, because he's got the big bushy mustache. He walked in the other day, clean shaven with still the bushy mustache. And so, Garrett Cole had about 3 days of growth the other day. Next day came in and he had a beard in Houston, and I think towards the end of his career in Pittsburgh before he was traded to Houston, he had just shaven clean too. So most guys kind of greeted the news with a shrug. They collectively overall feel that it was a good decision, because for some people where it really is a part of their persona, why not allow them to do that? But guys were certainly ready to move on after we were in there asking about it. Forget the announcement was made the day of their first spring training game, and after the game, nobody asked a word about the game. It was all about the beard policy, and guys were done with that.
Here's the thing,
and frankly, so was I.
Plus, it's as a male, you just don't have to wake up and be like, gosh, I have to shave. Like, I'm going to give it one more day.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't seem like a much, but like if you have to shave every day, it's just like, oh man, it's just 10 more minutes.
I'd rather shave every day.
Just 10 more minutes out of your day.
I don't grow a lot of beard, but it was like 3 or 4 days, and I wouldn't. Gene wouldn't send me an email or send an email to Booney to tell me. So I never got in trouble. But
you never ran afoul of the policy when you were here.
Never.
No. I mean, but it was, and I was when I went into the Blue Jays clubhouse because they played the Blue Jays the next day.
Vlad said he'd sign here because he can now grow a beard. That's breaking news here on FT.
No, I didn't talk to Vlad, but I was talking to some of their pitchers about not having to face the Juan Soto Judge combination back to back, and then a couple of them I was just BSing with after I was done, and I mentioned the beard thing, and they're basically like, you know what, only in New York would that be a huge topic, and I said, did that come up at all in the clubhouse here? And they were sort of like, nah, we were laughing at it, but it really was not something discussed anywhere other than New York.
Perfect. Erik, thank you for spelling your name correctly, and also for coming on again.
Right back at you.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it.
Good to see
seeing
you again.
You too. Thanks for joining us.